At some point tonight, someone will pay $20 to sit in a dark room and scream. Not because they're in danger, not because anything is actually wrong, but because they want to feel like something is wrong. We do this voluntarily. We buy the ticket, find the seat, and then spend 90 minutes convinced something is going to kill us. The question isn't whether this is strange, it obviously is. The question is why it works. Here's what actually happens the moment a horror movie scares you. Your heart rate spikes, your muscles tighten, your breathing goes shallow, blood redirects away from your digestive system and toward your arms and legs. Your pupils dilate to take in more light. Your body is preparing to run from something. Except you're sitting completely still, in a chair, holding a bucket of popcorn you forgot you had. The thing responsible for all of this is a small, almond-shaped structure buried deep in your brain called the amygdala. Its job is threat detection. That's it. That's the whole resume. The amygdala doesn't analyze, it doesn't deliberate. It scans everything coming in through your senses and asks one question: is this dangerous? And the moment it decides yes, your entire nervous system gets the memo, immediately. Here's where it gets interesting. The amygdala doesn't wait for confirmation. By the time your conscious brain has processed what you just saw on screen, your amygdala already made its call 300 milliseconds earlier. Before you knew you were scared, you already were. That's why you jump before you think. That's why logic doesn't stop the fear response. Your rational brain shows up late to a party that already started without it. Once the amygdala fires the alarm, the hypothalamus takes over and triggers what we call the fight or flight response. The way it works is this. Your adrenal glands, two small glands sitting on top of your kidneys, receive a signal and immediately release adrenaline directly into your bloodstream. Adrenaline is essentially your body's emergency broadcast system. Everything non-essential shuts down. Everything survival critical goes to maximum in about 1 second. Adrenaline gets all the credit, but it doesn't work alone. Right behind it comes cortisol, the stress hormone, which keeps your system elevated and alert for longer. And then, a few seconds later, comes something unexpected. Dopamine. The same chemical your brain releases when you eat something you love, when you win something, when something feels good. Your brain just decided that surviving a threat, even a fake one, deserves a reward. This is the part that explains everything. When the perceived threat passes, when the jump scare ends, when the monster doesn't actually get you, cortisol drops fast, and in its place, dopamine floods in. That drop and flood sequence, that's what we call relief, and neurologically relief feels really good. Your brain just ran a full survival simulation and came out the other side intact. Of course it wants to celebrate. But none of this explains why some people love horror, and some people refuse to go anywhere near it. The difference comes down to one concept psychologists call perceived safety. Your brain needs to believe, on some level, that the threat is contained, that you're in control, that you can leave if you want to. When that condition is met, fear becomes exciting. When it isn't, fear is just fear. Here's the part that's honestly a little humbling. Your amygdala cannot reliably tell the difference between a real threat and a vividly imagined one. It responds to what it perceives, not what is objectively true, which means a well-directed horror scene, the right sound design, the right camera angle, the right timing, can trigger the exact same biological cascade as an actual emergency. The film industry didn't discover this by accident. This is also why sound design matters more than visuals in horror. Your amygdala processes auditory threats faster than visual ones. A low sustained frequency, below 20 Hz, technically called infrasound, can produce a vague, sourceless feeling of dread before you consciously register anything wrong. Some of the most effective horror films use this deliberately. You feel uneasy before you see anything. By then, your brain is already halfway convinced something is coming. So why do we seek this out voluntarily? Psychologists use a framework called excitation transfer to explain it. The idea is that the physiological arousal from fear, the elevated heart rate, the adrenaline, the hyper-alert state, doesn't disappear the moment the threat passes. It transfers. So the relief you feel at the end of a horror film doesn't come from nowhere. It's borrowed energy from everything your body mobilized to survive something that never actually threatened you. There's a personality dimension that researchers call sensation-seeking, and it maps almost perfectly onto who gravitates toward horror. High sensation seekers have a higher threshold for novelty and intensity. Their dopamine systems respond more strongly to stimulation, which means they need a bigger input to get the same reward. For them, a quiet evening isn't relaxing. It's just understimulating. Horror, roller coasters, extreme sports, all variations on the same neurological preference. But sensation seeking isn't the whole story, because plenty of people who don't identify as thrill seekers still genuinely enjoy horror. What they're actually responding to is something more specific: mastery. When you watch a horror film and make it to the end, your brain registers that as a small win. You faced something threatening, and you survived it. It sounds ridiculous, but your nervous system doesn't know the difference. It logs the outcome the same way. There's also a social dimension that doesn't get talked about enough. Fear is one of the most effective bonding mechanisms humans have. Shared threat, even a simulated one, accelerates trust and emotional closeness between people. This is why watching horror with someone feels different than watching it alone. Your nervous systems are synchronized. You're going through the same physiological experience at the same time. It's fair to assume this is part of why haunted houses are a date activity. Here's something that gets counterintuitive fast. The most effective horror isn't the most graphic, it's the most uncertain. Your amygdala responds more intensely to ambiguity than to confirmed threats. A monster you can see clearly is less frightening than a shadow that might be something. This is why the buildup is scarier than the scare itself. Your brain is running threat simulations in the space of not knowing, and it always imagines the worst. There's a point where horror stops being fun, though, and the line is different for everyone. When the perceived safety breaks down, when someone feels genuinely out of control, genuinely unable to leave, genuinely unable to separate fiction from reality, the dopamine reward doesn't come. What's left is just cortisol, just stress, just a bad time. The enjoyment of horror depends entirely on the brain believing it's running a simulation. The second that belief cracks, the whole system changes. Which raises a question worth sitting with for a moment. If horror enjoyment requires your brain to believe the threat is both real enough to trigger fear and not real enough to cause genuine distress, how does it hold both of those things at the same time? Psychologists call this paradoxical arousal. The brain maintains two simultaneous truths: this is dangerous and I am safe. It sounds impossible, but you've done it every time you've enjoyed a scary movie. There's one more variable that changes the whole equation: familiarity with the genre. The more horror you consume, the better your brain gets at calibrating the simulation. It learns the patterns, the music, the camera angles, the pacing before a jump scare. It stops being surprised and starts being engaged. This is why horror fans often describe very scary movies as fun, while newcomers describe the exact same films as genuinely traumatic. Same film. Different brains. What makes this whole thing remarkable is that it's universal. Every human culture that researchers have studied has some version of horror: ghost stories, ritual fear ceremonies, terrifying myths passed down through generations. The specific content changes, but the structure is identical. Humans have always manufactured fear in safe containers. Honestly, I'd go as far as to say this isn't just entertainment. It might be one of the oldest forms of emotional training our species has. So here's where we land. You pay to be scared because your brain has a survival system that can't tell fiction from reality, a reward mechanism that celebrates making it through danger, and somehow the self-awareness to enjoy both of those things happening simultaneously. You are, biologically speaking, running a controlled stress test on yourself, on purpose, for fun. The horror industry didn't invent this. They just figured out how to sell tickets to it.